In the 1980s, the horror industry was flipped on its head with the birth of the subgenre, the slasher, following in the footsteps of films like Halloween, Black Christmas, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the 1970s. Two of the biggest icons that come out of this era were Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, who went on to dominate the horror landscape of the slasher genre. Freddy and Jason would compete at the box office throughout the 1980s, but little did audiences know that a few decades later, they would compete in a bloody battle for the ages. That's right, we're talking about Freddy versus Jason. Audiences almost got this battle a lot sooner though. During the pre-production phase of Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, the studio executives wanted Freddy Krueger to fight Jason in the film, but Freddy was owned by New Line and Jason owned by Paramount, so they couldn't come to an agreement to use Freddy. Then they switched gears and wanted to use Carrie in the film to fight Jason, but those fell through as well, so they made an original character with psychic abilities named Tina. The talks of a Freddy vs. Jason continued here and there throughout the rest of the 80s, and in the early 90s, with the film Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, audiences were surprised when Freddy's glove makes a cameo appearance to drag Jason's mask down to hell. And so began the development hell for Freddy vs. Jason, a whole 10 years trying to get this film produced. And finally in 2003, we got the battle we all wanted. So the story picks up several years after Freddy's dead and Jason goes to hell. Freddy is stuck in hell, Jason's stuck in hell, and the residents of Springwood have completely erased Freddy from their memory. Freddy can no longer come back if he's been forgotten about. Freddy becomes aware of this, so he searches hell and finds Jason, invades his dreams as his mother, and tells him to go kill teenagers on Elm Street to make the residents think that Freddy did it so he can come back to kill them.
Make them remember me, Jason. Make them remember what fear tastes like!
It's actually a pretty cool story. So we follow a group of teenagers led by Jason Ritter's character, Will, and Monica Keena's character, Lori, as they try to get Freddy and Jason to fight and kill Freddy once and for all. So in a way, Jason's the anti-hero of this film, and Freddy is the main antagonist. We all know Jason's a killing machine, and when he won't stop killing,
She's mine! Mine! Mine!
Freddy decides to step in and take care of Jason himself, which leads to one of the greatest versus scenes in cinema history.
Now, it's time to put this bad dog to sleep. For good!
This battle is bloody, gory, and intense, and takes place both in the dream world and in the real world. I have to say, even 20 years later, when Laurie pulls Freddy into the real world, and he realizes he's there with Jason, and the music kicks up, Freddy turns around, and I still get goosebumps every time.
Die, little bitch.
At the end of the film, Laurie decapitates Freddy as he's immobilized by Jason with his own claw. And in the epilogue, Jason rises from Crystal Lake. He walks to the shore holding a machete in one hand and Freddy's head in the other. It looks like Jason's the winner, but then Freddy's head looks over and winks at the audience, indicating room for a sequel in the future. The marketing behind this film was pretty cool. New Line actually had a weigh-in at Madison Square Garden with Ken Kersinger and Robert Englund in full outfit facing off before the movie's release.
Gentlemen, please, at this time, we would like to have the weigh-in. Could you please step backstage here behind it? Mr. Kruger, Mr. Voorhees, please. Back here, please.
So why did we never get a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason? Apparently, one of the endings of Freddy vs. Jason has Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees returning to hell to fight. Then Pinhead from Hellraiser breaks them up and says, "Now what seems to be the problem?" hinting at a potential showdown with Pinhead in the future. Another sequel idea that popped up was Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash from Evil Dead. While this movie never saw the light of day, it did become a comic book series in the mid-2000s. So what do I think of Freddy vs. Jason? I absolutely love this film. It may not be the best film ever, and there's plenty of continuity errors and all this other nonsense, but we don't come for that. We came to see two titans of horror clash, and it does not disappoint right there. So in terms of rewatchability and entertainment, this movie's a 10 out of 10. It is fantastic. I love it. I watch it every single year. And that's a tradition I will keep throughout the rest of my life. Freddy vs. Jason marks the final time Robert Englund portrayed Freddy in a major film. He did, however, return for an episode of The Goldbergs reprising his role as Freddy. As for Jason, we haven't seen Jason since 2009. A24 was developing a series called Crystal Lake, which is a prequel to Friday the 13th. And Sean S. Cunningham recently came out and said he's working on a direct sequel to Friday the 13th, featuring Jason Voorhees. With all these legal battles, though, it's hard to say when this movie will see the light of day, and if Freddy and Jason will ever clash again in the future. Here's to hoping we get something soon.